In the world of global energy politics, few stories capture the delicate art of great power balancing quite like India's approach to Russian oil. As the second Trump administration turns up the heat on allies and partners to isolate Moscow economically, India finds itself at a crossroads. Washington wants New Delhi to completely stop buying Russian crude oil that has helped fuel India's booming economy. To understand the pressure, step back to the broader context. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Western nations led by the United States, European Union and G7 countries have imposed sweeping sanctions on Russian energy exports. The goal is to cut off revenue that funds Moscow's war machine. The West's primary weapon against Russian oil is the price cap, a mechanism prohibiting the use of Western ships or insurance unless the oil is sold below a fixed rate. Initially set at $60 per barrel, the G7 aggressively tightened the noose in September 2025, lowering the ceiling to $47.60. This created a mathematical deadlock for buyers. As of this week, Russian Urals crude is trading on the open market at approximately $56.90 per barrel, nearly $10 above the legal limit. This price gap means shipping Russian crude is impossible. India cannot legally use London-based insurance or European tankers to import Russian oil even if it wanted to. Yet with clever diplomacy and smart use of international trade rules, India can manage to honor its commitments to the United States on paper while quietly securing the oil it desperately needs. India is one of the world's fastest growing major economies, with a population of 1.4 billion and rising demand for fuel. The country uses about 5.2 to 5.5 million barrels of crude oil every day to power cars, factories, trucks, and planes. Domestic production covers only 12 to 14% of that, meaning India imports the vast majority. Refineries, especially private giants like Reliance Industries and Nayara Energy, are built to handle heavy sulfur-rich crude from Russia, which is cheaper and yields high profits when turned into diesel or gasoline. Russian supplies, often discounted $6 to $12 below global benchmarks like Brent crude, have saved India tens of billions annually while keeping pump prices affordable and inflation low. A sudden switch to pricier oil from West would spike costs, weaken the rupee currency, and spark public anger over higher fuel bills. US administration states that in exchange of trade deal, India committed to ending all direct and indirect imports of Russian crude, with promises of ongoing US monitoring through shipping data and import records. Official data shared with the US confirms a dramatic shift. Direct imports from Russian ports have nearly halved, dropping from a peak of 2.1 million BPD in mid-2025 to just 1.1 million BPD. On the surface, it looks like compliance, but beneath the headlines, India could use sophisticated workaround, using loopholes in the sanction system and trusted middlemen. The heart of the strategy relies on third countries, neutral hubs like the United Arab Emirates that have long-standing deals with Russia. Following the Western sanctions in 2022, dozens of Dubai-based trading firms signed long-term agreements with Russian oil giants like Rosneft, effectively acting as a middleman that shields the final buyer. These agreements often include built-in flexibility, with clauses allowing volume increases of 20 to 30% based on refinery demand, market shifts, or optional uplifts. So essentially, the Dubai-based trading firms can ask a Russia oil supplier for an additional supply. India could leverage these existing legal structures to mask its continued intake by activating standard volume flexibility clauses within these legacy contracts. By activating standard volume flexibility clauses within these legacy contracts, New Delhi could maximize imports under the guise of fulfilling old, boring bureaucratic obligations rather than signing provocative new deals. Crucially, purchasing from a Dubai-based intermediary recategorizes the transaction as an India-UAE trade, creating a jurisdictional firewall that Washington is hesitant to breach. While US sanctions aggressively target Russian entities, sanctioning a UAE-registered trading house is a diplomatic escalation the White House is unlikely to risk, for fear of alienating a critical Gulf ally. A parallel but equally vital channel involves the strategic pivot to CPC blend, crude oil from Kazakhstan. Because Kazakhstan is landlocked, it relies on the massive network to pump its oil across hundreds of miles of Russian territory to a Russian port on the Black Sea. This creates a geopolitical magic trick. Even though the oil flows through Russia and departs from a Russian terminal, Western sanctions legally classify it as Kazakh under a specific transit exemption. This allows India to dramatically boost imports of this blend without technically buying Russian oil. It is the perfect diplomatic cover. Cargoes arrive at Indian ports with clean paperwork, swelling the non-Russian import statistics that New Delhi presents to the White House, while in reality, the energy security remains tied to the same Russian logistical web. This approach exploits real gaps. US sanctions need clear proof of wrongdoing to enforce against non-Americans, and opaque trade layers make that hard. Washington also has reasons to look the other way. Disrupting flows could spike global prices, hurting American consumers and the world economy. By honoring the letter of its US commitment while securing supply through established channels, New Delhi could avoid a damaging sowdown without sacrificing core needs. This is classic Indian statecraft, quiet, calculated, and effective. In geopolitics, where pure wins are rare, India's oil maneuver stands as a masterclass in balancing power, pragmatism, and survival.